and 2 and 1.
Hey, welcome to this episode of The Sheppard Show. It is April for us, so that means it's May for you, and we're talking all things mental health because May is Mental Health Month. We brought some actual adults with us and even a doctor. Before we get into all that, we're going to talk about who we are, introduce ourselves. I'm James. I'm a professional illustrator. I have the certificate to prove it.
And I'm Ben. I'm the video guy here at Sheppard Public Affairs.
And I'm Will. I am retired security forces and a current therapist. I was an MFLAC and now the diversity, equity, and inclusion guy.
Johnny, a former Marine and currently the behavioral health consultant.
Can we talk about what your position is and how that isn't like on the record or anything like that?
What the reality of that is,
Right.
basically.
Yep. The military family and life counselor is an interesting contracted position because there are never any notes taken. Honestly, as a therapist, it's the greatest job in the world because you never have to write anything down.
Right.
A little taxing on
Nice.
memory, but yeah, super nice.
Joke's on you, I can't read or write.
Yeah.
But I can feel you.
Yes, yeah, exactly. No, and people feel comfortable with that. You know, it's a lot more accessible. They can go and they can talk without anyone ever knowing. You can't
Right.
ever confirm that they came to see you. It's a
That's
little
awesome.
different than the behavioral optimization.
Yeah, mine is completely different. As a behavioral health consultant, I get referrals from the primary case managers, the medical providers. I get referrals from mental health providers. So I'm going to see your typical airmen in training. I'm going to see officers. I'm going to see those who have mobility, flight status, use of arm status.
So all kinds of
So
stuff.
I have to, for those categories to where they have access to cause potential harm, if they're not doing well, it has to be reported.
Yeah.
But when
course.
I see folks, I normalize things. We have an issue America-wide regarding mental health in the aspect of folks looking at it different than physical health. Like you guys have kids.
Yeah.
So
I don't have.
Ben doesn't, but I
he's a
I have enough.
So
for both
he's
of
a
us.
kid. But if your loved one has the flu for 4 months, what are you going to do? You don't think twice. You bring him to the doctor.
Right.
Yeah.
Mental health is biological. Unless there's trauma-induced issues, it's our body that is going haywire.
Right. You're getting
So
sick.
we don't think twice about COVID treatment.
Right.
Right. We just go see
But
the
all of a
doctor.
sudden, now that I'm having depression, or maybe our
Right,
marriage
it's
is not doing well,
Right.
we think odd, we think weird about ourselves.
It's normal. I want to talk about that.
yeah.
I want to pick up with that when we come back. Let's take a break, and we'll be back with more from an actual doctor. All right, welcome back to the Sheppard Show. We're talking with Johnny here about different
Dr. Johnny.
Dr. Johnny, different things that you see, and you were talking about how if you're sick physically, you go to the doctor, you don't hesitate, but when we're dealing with stuff in our heads, we put that off a lot
Correct.
of times until it's a major problem.
Yes, until the extremes to where you're no longer functional in your job. You're having depressed thoughts, even harmful thoughts like you were bringing up, to the extremes. We want to be able to provide a place to where someone feels safe. I have the perspective, if you walk away feeling heard, understood, and appreciated, that's mental health care right there. So if we can actually, as a team, collaborate and address those problems and create tangible, practical goals, oh, wow. Now you're fixing your own problem.
Yeah.
Right. You guys just kind of go at that by like, I know you do, by just like normalizing how, you know, a 20-year-old is feeling about, you know, their,
You'd be surprised how the younger men and women they have such a different attitude about mental health than we did growing up.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
this whole generation, like, I know that sounds old and they get kind of, you know, guff, but they're so much faster to be like, cool with everything.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And
And
be cool
and
to each
open.
other.
You know, when I would sit down with people when I was the military family life counselor, they were very open, very honest about where they were at. And sometimes just it's almost a sense of emancipation when you leave home and it's like, okay, I came from this environment. I'm in a new environment and I get to choose how I want to behave in that. And it's really part of it is just as generic as it sounds. It's empowerment. You know,
Yeah.
hey, these are your choices. You're aware of them. Now it's your responsibility.
Yeah, I like that, man.
Yeah.
Like choosing where you want to go.
Right.
I think because we're on a training base and our primary base population is AITs, generally speaking, what are some of the big problems that people come in and see you for? Either one of you.
Without getting like mega
Yeah.
specific.
Oh,
Of course.
missing home,
Yeah.
Yeah.
missing grandma, missing good food, being able to go out
The
whenever
DFAC's
you
not
want.
good?
DFAC's awesome. We
And-
win awards every
Sorry,
year.
no, but there's something right there because if you come from an environment where you're consistently validated and people make you feel good about yourself,
Yeah, man.
and you walk into basic where no one makes you feel good about yourself, and you're slowly getting that back, it's about building your support system back up in a new place. And
Yep.
as they start to do that, you know, and break down some of those social barriers, they flourish.
That's why so much of like what, you know, there's so many things in the military that are really beautiful. And we'll take a break and talk about that when we come back, about why the military is beautiful in a lot of ways. I mean, it can be.
Can
All right, come back in a minute.
Hi, welcome back to another segment of the Sheppard Show. We were just talking about why the military is beautiful, James.
Yeah, bear with me. It is, but you know,
100%.
Yeah, 100%. But the reason I say that, it's like everybody comes. I didn't realize that. Like, I grew up in a really small town. My dad was military, but I grew up in a really small town, like really small. We had 16 kids in my senior class, and some of the stuff that people are coming into the military with, I couldn't even comprehend. Like, they're leaving it to come here, and you end up having conversations with people. And I know everyone sitting here has had that experience with somebody where it's like, oh man, I can't believe that you were dealing with that.
That's probably the number one thing, is that people show up, and this was no different from me. You know, when I joined, I was not living my best life.
Right.
And I recreated those behaviors in the military. And then slowly but surely I realized, like, hey, I got a choice. I don't have to live this way if I choose not to. And a lot of times people leave a dysfunctional home or unhealthy relationships. They come in and they recreate them because that's what we're comfortable with. But the second they're aware of it and they realize that there are all these resources and people who want to help them, they break out and they
That's
do
awesome.
amazing things.
And that
Yeah.
everybody's like, that was the thing I was kind of getting to about it being beautiful, is that like everyone quickly becomes the same, right? We're all dressing the same. We're all doing the same kind of work. Like, Johnny, I'm curious, because you were a former Marine, and I know it is a little different, you know, in the Air Force at least. You know, you have your job, and then we're all part of the Air Force. In the Marines, like, you're a Marine first, and then it's your job.
We are riflemen first,
Right,
sir.
exactly right. Sorry about that. But
Jeez,
is
James.
does the stigma thing kind of carry over to job? Like, if you're an infantryman, and I don't know the terms. I'm sorry, I'm so dumb. If you're in the infantry in the Marines, but you work at finance in the Marines, like, are they dealing with the same kind of stigmas?
100%.
They are.
At least 25 years ago.
100%.
Yes.
Nice job.
Well, you got to think stigmas too are about how your specific culture defines worth. What is it that makes you valuable to your job? Is
Oh,
it
okay.
carrying a weapon? Is
Right,
it
that's a
your
good point.
secret clearance?
Right.
Right. So
Yeah, 'cause we were at Whiteman in the
that's-
beginning.
Yeah. If that somehow is impacted and you feel like you're unworthy to the people that
Yes.
you care about, then you're less likely to go and bring something up.
Yes.
You know.
Yeah, speaking from the Marine perspective, you go through boot camp and they break you down mentally. Then they rebuild you up. So the first month is they physically break you down so they can break you down mentally. And that's because they cannot get a group of 60 men from A to B with individuals. We all have to be in the same
Sure.
team. So after that, you build those group down to think like individuals. Some folks never get past that.
Right.
Nope.
Yeah, I think it is important to note that, like, clearly, you know, we're the best military in the world and our system works, but we can always improve.
Yeah, it's getting better.
Right. Yeah, we can improve. All right, so
we got to take a quick break, but when we come back, we're just going to pick right back up where we left off with mental health. So stick around.
hi, welcome back to the Sheppard Show. We're talking about mental health and all things associated with that to the best of our knowledge, but we brought experts.
In between the break, we were talking about varying degrees of understanding and realizing your mental health. So you might be in denial about something, and I guess a question to ask is, why do you feel a certain way, or why wouldn't you want to open up about maybe a problem or something that you're having? And that's actually a normal feeling to have when you're first understanding or realizing, hey, maybe I'm not quite there. Will, can you talk a little bit more about that? Recognition.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, some of it's really just about self-awareness and being willing to have conversations with yourself and listen to the things that you say to yourself, because our internal dialogues are very telling. And if you have something that is even troubling to admit to yourself, let alone another person, then that should be kind of a concern for you. And I would probably urge you to talk to somebody about it, just because if it's that disconcerting to you, finding help might ease some of that,
Sure.
Yeah, mental health doesn't occur in a vacuum. There are signs. You're not sleeping well. You can't go to bed on time. You can't stay in bed. You're having a hard time getting up.
Then put your little hand in mine. There ain't no hill around.
Your digestion's bothering you. People say it's nerves, whether you have diarrhea, constipation, and you're 24 years old and there's no medical condition. You're getting irritable. You're sweating when you're asked for simple tasks. You start looking at your day-to-day functionality, how you behave day-to-day, and you can find something's off. That's when you need to speak with someone.
I'm feeling... As he's saying all those things, I'm like, I haven't slept in 25 years.
Yeah, you're also not 24.
Yeah, right. I'm just broken.
Childlike, not childish.
Not qualified for that.
Sometimes you just got to look in the mirror and ask yourself, you good, bro?
Yeah, you good? I wore, mine has jelly on it, but it says mental health is my jam, so I just like jelly.
Moving on. We're talking about, okay, there's a realization, there's a part of you're going to have to realize and step up and say, okay, maybe I need to go talk to someone, but can we talk about barriers to mental health? What are some of the things that are preventing people from just saying, you know what, I need to go and do this?
Number one thing, not talking your chain of command. And that sounds weird.
They don't want you to? Is that what you're saying?
No. Your thought process that I don't want to show that something's off.
Right, I surely wouldn't want.
So the first thing that I recommend everyone, talk to your military training leader. The guy is
MTLs?
Yes, your MTLs. They've been through it, even though they're usually the cream of the crop.
Yeah.
But you talk to them. They're your big brother.
They're dealing with it right now.
They're
I want
gonna-
to talk more about
yes.
MTLs. We're going to take a quick break. We'll come right back.
Hey, welcome back to the latest episode of the Sheppard Show. We're talking about, on the last segment, MTLs and how they're going through it.
Yeah, they are. They're going through it. But Johnny, you were saying specifically, like, if you're feeling some kind of way, your MTL should be your first stop, and they can help you.
Specifically those who are of lower rank. I see a lot of those folks who are in training or just out of training. So they have that concept that I have to be perfect. Yeah. I have to get the perfect scores. I have to make sure I pass my test. And yes, you want to do well, but perfection is impossible. So a lot of the young folks in uniform have this idea that they have to be perfect in everything. That will keep them from going, I need help. Or something's off. Do I need help? And, the MTL is one of the first stops for those who are in training. And heck, just if you're of older rank, more mature, talking to your peers.
Yeah, I think
Just doing spot check.
That's such a good point. And, you know, the Air Force and every branch, I'm sure, pushes that. But, like I was saying earlier, as you're looking up the chain to people that you want to emulate, there's a very good chance, almost guaranteed chance, that they were in the same spot that you were in at some point.
I think,
100%.
and then there's something to be said about you're experiencing the same thing with those people. If anyone's going to understand or feel you on that level, it's going to be the person side by side that you're working with or going through training with or whatever it is.
Yeah, I guess one thing you got to remember, though, is a lot of times our barriers are internal because of what we perceive someone else's thoughts or reactions to be. You know what I mean? And it's one of those rare opportunities. When I was working at Red River, I would always tell people, sometimes you got to be a little selfish and put yourself first. It's not about what somebody else is going to think about you. It's going to be more about, you know, are you okay? Are you good, bro? And if you're not, saying something about it.
Yeah. Because a lot of times, you know, I think our initial thought is that our problem is going to be met with judgment. And so many times, if you're honest and open, it's met with empathy because it's like, man,
and
I
we're
was there.
surprised.
Right.
Like, oh, I didn't know that you had experienced something like that. And all of a sudden, you've now created a connection that might never leave.
Yeah.
You know?
No, that's a really good point.
I mean, look at us, 20 some odd years later, and like that.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I mean, and I think there's a reason why, you know, even after service and there's a different language that vets speak, but it's literally because you experience the same thing, even if it's different branches, whether you were in combat or not in combat. All of that stuff immediately is like, yeah, man, we were in all of that
through
stuff
struggle and vulnerability and honestly,
boiled chicken breasts every single day.
Well, ours were marinated in Italian dressing.
Man,
I remember that.
spoiled.
It was solid.
Delicious. Yeah, spoiled Air Force guys with their marinated chicken.
Why can't I use my dinner roll as a rock and throw it? I don't know, but
soak it in water. All right, we'll take a break and stop picking on the food. We'll be back.
all right, welcome back to the Sheppard Show.
Yep.
And I'll bring us back in because apparently this is proving to be a little bit emotionally taxing for our PA folk.
We should just keep that.
Hey, we're professionals.
We'll just keep it. So, you're brand new. You got through basic training, flying colors, hand chopping this to really sell it. And you think maybe stuff's starting to get in the weeds. Like, what's normal there? Like, what do I do? Like, I'm not sleeping well. My digestion's not great. Like, I'm 20 years old.
I mean, let's face it, Taco Bell, you know, it's
Yeah,
not great.
right. I'm not eating great. No. You know what I mean. You're starting to show some of those signs.
I'd really have to go with what Johnny said. I mean, there are people who are there and their sole mission in life is to support you and help you out. And if your peers aren't the ones you're comfortable talking to, go to someone whose job it is to find you what you need. And the military training leaders, the MTLs, your instructors, whether active or civilian, it's their sole mission in life is to make you better so you can serve effectively. You know, I can't reinforce the say something more than that. And when you do, be honest about it, you know.
And speaking of honesty, you know, earlier we were talking about you lean on your peers a lot. They're going through the same experiences as you, but in my experience, and again, everyone's is different throughout the military and throughout branches, I would lean on those people's, but it was in an unhealthy way. And so we started abusing alcohol, and that was our way of dealing with that, and not in a way of just like, oh yeah, we're off work, the game's on, we're gonna have some beers. We were really, really getting lost in the sauce.
Lost in the sauce, not a good thing.
And so
I lost 2 stripes in that sauce.
I also lost 2 stripes in that sauce. This is getting messy. So what would you say to someone? Yes, lean on your peers, but also be aware of like what's a healthy
maybe find
relationship
some new
or
peers.
what's not, or what can you do to help mitigate that if you feel like maybe you're going down that road a little bit and you know you're abusing alcohol or anything else.
I think the number one symptom is negativity. That's a disease. You come to a facility like this installation, things are a little bit far. It's hard to access, so the first thing you think of, this place sucks. So how many people are identifying what's good in their life? And
so like a count your blessings type of deal?
Yeah.
and not surround yourself by those people.
Exactly. Because if you start counting just the things that are wrong, then you start drowning yourself out with negative activities, the drinking, the video games for 20 hours in a session.
Yeah. Right.
And I
like that.
would tap into those whys. You know,
Yeah.
a lot of times, why did you join and where do you plan to be in a few years? And are the things that you're doing right now going to get you there? And if those aren't lining up, maybe you need to change something.
Yeah, good point.
I hear a lot, this isn't for me. I'm going to do my contract and go. That's fantastic.
Yeah, that's as mature a decision as staying 20
yes,
years.
that's good for you, but don't have that attitude that you're getting out. Keep that choice, respect that choice, but act like you're going to stay in and behave like it, and you'll enjoy your time more.
Right.
Awesome.
Attitude.
Yeah.
Well, and on that note, we're going to get out and take a commercial break.
Be back soon.
Welcome back to the possibly final segment of the Sheppard Show. We want to talk about kind of the bigger picture of the Air Force and mental health. Most of us sitting here, we were in, over a decade ago, and thinking back on it,
It's a lot of gray.
I think, let's be honest, for us on the surface, the military in general, the Navy for me, Air Force, Marines for you guys, they would talk a big game. Get help if you need help. Mental health, it's okay to talk about. At least on the surface, but it really wasn't, I think, when it trickled down to the squadron level and the individual level. Can we talk about how that's changed over the last, call it decade?
Yeah, the good news is
The
it's
good
changed.
news is
It has. And I think the two main things are that the DoD in general, they understand that there are varying degrees where they need to have treatment outlets. Not everybody is having a crisis. Not everybody is, having a marriage that's falling apart. Some people simply want to get a little bit better or get more in touch with themselves, and having those opportunities are something that they never had before.
Yeah.
And I think the biggest shift has been that when we came in, the mantra was, it sucked for me, it should suck for you.
Yeah.
And I think we're kind of sliding away from that in that, well, I now have the power, so it doesn't have to suck for you, and you can be growing and maturing at a faster rate than I
Right.
did.
Does this actually make... That was my first introduction to General Drew at his commander call, and that was one of the things that he brought up was that we had a lot of AITs that were holdovers here, waiting for orders, whatever. And what do? Like, we have everybody on details, cleaning. Like, we've told you you're joining the best military in the world, the best
Right.
Air Force in the
you're
world.
trained now to do your job.
Right. And here's a mop. Until we tell you to go. Like, that's not going to put you in a great mental state. And I definitely had to do all that.
Oh,
We
yeah.
picked a lot of weeds at Whiteman. We were FTAC for how many weeks, but that doesn't mean that we should continue that, maybe.
Right. And I think that the aperture is opening, and people are, there's an actual effort to make sure that people aren't doing that.
Yeah, it's going to get better.
Yeah.
Johnny, what?
The concept that I lived with while wearing the grain is mission readiness at all costs.
Yeah.
All costs to our marriage,
Same.
all costs to our physical well-being, mental health well-being, all aboard our time and everything. And seeing that at least my exposure here to the leadership is, no, we are going to be mission ready, but we're going to take care of our people first,
Well,
so that mission will be accomplished.
And I think those two things feed off each other. You hear some of the good leaders, you take care of your people will take care of you.
Yes.
You're going to do your job better if you're mentally okay. Maybe you have financial strain, maybe you have a strained marriage or something like that. But if you're in a good place, you're more like, you walk into work like ready to do it and know that it needs to get done, versus having all these things at the back of your head. Maybe
That's what really makes you mission ready.
right. And
That's what puts the
you
mission
could argue
first.
that exactly.
Yeah, people first, mission first. Yeah.
So I think that's probably going to wrap up.
Yeah, so as we close,
Yeah.
do you guys have any like parting, see something, say something kind of things that we've kind of strayed away from this whole time, so we could just have a conversation?
No, I don't think so. I think the biggest thing I would ask of anybody who watches this is the more you listen to yourself and the more you think about the things that are going on in your life, and if you increase that awareness, You know, you get a lot more comfortable in those spaces. It's when we start to resist those feelings that we start to get into trouble.
Coping.
You know? Yeah.
Johnny?
Yeah. Come see me. Behavioral health consultation. Hey.
Plug. Shameless
Plug, yeah. That was,
Shame.
all right, well, thanks for joining us for May's version of the Sheppard Show, and we'll see you back next month.
Yep. We'll see you.